All right, let's talk about options. Realistic options. Wide receiver. Allen Robinson, Juju, Jarvis Landry, MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, A.J. Green, D-Jax, Deshaun Jackson, and Robbie Anderson. Now, A.J. Green, D-Jax, 33, 35 years old.
That's why I put them on there.
Respectively. And
given the Patriots free agency to this point, like, how old are you, Cattles? They might be calling up you. It's all the 30-somethings for crying out loud.
It's the over 30 club. Anderson would actually, as we all know, be a trade, and they had talked to Carolina. It'll be interesting to see if Carolina brings in Deshaun Watson. Sounds like the Saints are leading that brigade as of right now. To me, Allen Robinson is my number one. I would put Landry at 2. I would put Juju at 3. I'm afraid of what MVS is going to get on this market. He's not a $12 million a year player. How do you rank these guys, Greg?
So, I'm in favor of Robinson for all the reasons that you've said. I think he's a true number one. He's been in that position. He's been productive in sort of crap situations. So I think that he would be really good for Mac Jones. I'm not a big Juju Smith-Schuster guy. I used to be, but he sort of fell off in Pittsburgh. I don't know, maybe him and Roethlisberger had a bad relationship. I don't know. But all of a sudden he disappeared, and I know that because he was on my fantasy team and he didn't do jack crap. Landry, not a big fan. I think he's old. He's slow. I'm not a big fan. MVS, look, this is a guy who all of a sudden, because he's a free agent now, and he's tall and he's fast. I get it. All of a sudden now, because he's a free agent, people are like, their mouths are watering over him. Well, why was he like a number 3, 4 receiver for the Packers if he was any good? If Rodgers thought he was any good, why couldn't he have been like a number 2? Why are they going out there and getting like Randall Cobb and stuff like that? So to me, he's very inconsistent catching the ball. If, people, when I reported about Robbie Anderson, people are like, oh, he's not that good, blah, blah, blah. But MVS, they're all excited about. Robbie Anderson, they're almost the same size, same speed. Robbie Anderson is way better than Marquez Valdez-Scantling. You don't have to give him a signing bonus. I would be happy with Robbie Anderson. The old guys, I don't want to have anything to do with, but I put them on there just as a joke because apparently Bill Belichick only signs 30-year-olds. But, yeah, I mean, Allen Robinson, Anderson, and then maybe Landry after that. Landry is a street free agent, so he wouldn't cost you anything, compensatory picks. Again, if the Patriots are trying to go the trade route, which protecting the compensatory picks for next year would help you, would give you more of an arsenal to do trades, which is maybe why they're aiming to protect the compensatory picks, because maybe that's the approach they're going with. We're like, oh, well, we're not going to do we did free agency for 1 year. Now we're going to do trades, and so we don't have to lay out signing bonuses and stuff like that. So Robinson, then Robbie Anderson for me.
Yeah, I'd be, I was more looking at the free agent guys. My bad. I mean, I like Robbie Anderson a lot. I think he could help this offense. So he would slide in ahead of Landry and Juju for me as well. A.J. Green actually had a pretty good year last year in Arizona. Surprisingly, I thought he was washed. So
yeah,
we'll
for
see.
cheap,
cornerback.
For cheap, I would do him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cornerback. Gilmore's out there. Apparently, the Raiders are hot on him. The rest of the list that I have: Janoris Jenkins, Patrick Peterson, Joe Hayden, Kyle Fuller, Xavier Rhodes, A.J. Bouye. Very old list. A lot of guys they're all on the backside of their career. If I had to pick one guy out of that, I would probably say A.J. Bouye. That I think that, if you're looking for a veteran guy along the same lines of Jalen Mills, but I think a little bit longer, a little bit better in man-to-man, I think that Bouye sort of gives you that option. But all those guys are somewhat similar. Jack Rabbit, Janoris Jenkins, decent, but outside of Gilmore, nobody's really good on that list.
I want nothing to do with Jenkins. I saw him get torched a number of times last year. I'll pass on him. Peterson's okay, but he can't stay healthy.
No.
Hayden, full.
Okay.
I'm intrigued by Rhodes. If Rhodes could stay healthy, I wouldn't mind that.
I agree.
It's really been an injury thing with him. Bouye, okay. I mean, I'd be fine with that. My favorite guy, if he's healthy, is obviously Gilmore, but I do feel like the Raiders might make a late push here. It's been pretty quiet around him, though. Let's move to edge. Zadarius Smith, who was released by the Packers, Melvin Ingram, Justin Houston, Jerry Hughes, Derek Barnett, and of course, when we look at Barnett, we talk about joint practices, Greg.
Yeah, I could just hear the other Patriots beat writers. They got a lot of intel from him from the joint practices. They saw him up close, because it happens all the time. We know it happens all the time. The Patriots do joint practices with somebody pops, whatever. They played them they played Mack, the linebacker, with Cleveland this year, and he had a decent game. Terrence Mitchell played against the Patriots this year for the Texans, forced a fumble on Damian Harris. So, I've always liked Derek Barnett. I wouldn't say he's anything to write home about. I think Zadarius Smith, if there was one guy to go after for me, because it could be cheap, he's coming off an injury, that sort of thing. He played in Baltimore with Judon. It'd be nice to have those guys on opposite sides of each other. They're familiar with each other. But all those guys bring something. Ingram, Houston, Hughes. I'm sure there are other guys out there. They all bring something and can bring you pass rush. It's just a question of how much cost.
I like Smith. Again, it's a health thing with him for the most part. He was making a lot of money for the Packers. They had to keep Devondre Campbell, who would have been one of my top guys at linebacker for the Pats. They had to bring him back. They had to bring Preston Smith back with more money. And obviously the Rodgers guy, gargantuan contract. So, defensive tackle, big guys up front. Akeem Hicks. Ooh, again, health, but I love.
Mm-hmm.
Can they make up for that mistake from years ago? They've got Akeem Hicks, Calais Campbell, Michael Pierce, who is now out there because Minnesota, they cut him. Yep. Sheldon Richardson, Daquan Jones, and Derek Nottie, who I know is from the Virginia area that I was working at for a long time. Yeah. So, your thoughts on those names, Greg?
I like all those guys on the list. I mean, I would be fine with any of them, helping out. Obviously, people know, Hicks is one of the few guys that got away from New England, who was actually better or stayed as productive, if not better, when he left. Calais Campbell, can you imagine having him in the middle and quarterbacks having to throw over him? He's always been a beast. I love Michael Pierce. I loved him when he, when he was with the Ravens. And the Ravens, I don't know if he was a free agent or trade, but good player, really good run stuffer. Same with Nandi. I mean, if they're looking to move on from Godchow, those two guys would be the guys that I would go after. Again, because Pierce is a street free agent, doesn't affect the compensatory pick formula, whereas Nandi, I think, would. So I like that. It's a really good list. There are guys out there, and I think they're going to be cost effective. I think what we're seeing here, Nick, going through these names is that, fans might not love it, but there's some cost-effective options out there that make the Patriots a little bit better.
Just feel like they got to recalibrate the fans after last year's spending spree.
Yeah.
This is more old school Belichick. And I think defensive line, especially as you just mentioned, all those guys, I think they could all chip in. I think they're all good players. And I wouldn't mind, Lawrence Guy, Godchow, if you move on from both those guys, save a little money and pick up a couple of these cats, not bad. Linebacker, Miles Jack, we both love. Leighton Vander Esch, Kaiser White, and Jayon Brown. What do you think?
Yeah, and I also had Anthony Walker on there from the Browns because it's just like, wouldn't it be typical if the Patriots took two Browns linebackers? Didn't they do that a few years ago with I forget.
He's gone. I think he signed this morning, I think.
Oh, he did? Okay, my bad. I have no interest in Vander Esch. Decent player, gets hurt a lot, overrated. Kazir White is a good player, undersized, sort of like a coverage guy. I wouldn't mind him, in the room. But again, we can't forget they have Cam McGrone. Raekwon McMillan is probably similar to Kazir White in terms of, they had some big. They were looking for a big role for him last year. Unfortunately, he got hurt. But they have McMillan, they have and McGrone come back. Big Mac linebackers, I guess. If we're going with Macmillan and Macrone. I'm very smart. I just came up with that on the fly. Jayon Brown's another athletic sort of linebacker. Not crazy about him, but yeah, I think both of us want Miles Jack, but I think he's going to be pricey, and somebody with a little bigger wallet is probably looking to be like, boom, we have our new starting middle linebacker.
Yeah, Van Der Esch, too many injuries, neck and head injuries. No, thank you. And he also over pursues a lot. He's not that good in coverage. Yeah, not interested. Offensive line: Trey Turner, Nate Solder.
Yeah, I'm sure there are other guys out there. I haven't been keeping up. I do think, remember, the Patriots have a bunch of guys in-house, whether it's, Yasir Durant, Justin Haran, Yadni Kajust, who was their third-round pick that, I thought he showed flashes last year of being able to start at tackle. So they have options. So I don't think they're crazy looking right now outside of like a trade like the Lyle Collins deal that we talked about. But, Trey Turner's a veteran who's been out there, who's still a decent player. Nate Solder, you could probably get away with him as a right tackle at this point. I think his days of a left tackle are over, but he's always loved the area, always had a good relationship. Remember, his son went through a lot of health issues and dealt with the hospitals up here, so I'm sure they would be interested in that, possibly on the cheap. But, yeah, that's sort of where I see things.